The usual type of frame that people start off with when they're building up a nuc looks like this. It's a typical deep frame in North America anyway, and it's a piece of plastic embedded with honeycomb patterns all on both sides, and it's coated in wax. It has a very thin coating of wax on it. That wax encourages the bees to build on it sooner. Sometimes you can get plastic foundation that has no wax and the bees won't touch it. Some bees will, some bees won't. A lot of them just won't even touch it unless there's wax on it. This foundation is black, which is really great because it makes it a lot easier to spot the brood growing in the cells. If you have white foundation or a lighter colored foundation, it's hard to notice those cells, the brood and the larva inside the cells. So black is preferable. Black is so useful for spotting brood that I don't know why all foundation isn't black. But anyhow, the normal looking frame that you start off with a nuc looks like this. If you're lucky, you've got drawn comb, and drawn comb looks sort of like this, which is basically, compared to this, what you can see is the bees took this frame and they built comb on it. And this is a sort of a rough looking piece of comb right now, but it's comb, and the bees will use that, and they'll either fill it up with honey or pollen or whatever they need, or the queen will lay in this space, all this space here. And this is why we call it drawn comb, because the bees draw it out. You'll notice in my frames I've got a little hole. It's a 3/4 inch hole in the middle of all my my deep frames. For me, this is an experiment, but I think it works. Sometimes the bees in the winter, when it's really cold and they're clustering together on the comb, say this is a full frame of honey. Actually, I do have a frame of honey with a hole in it. Here we go. Say they're sitting on a frame of honey with a hole in it, right? So normally they'd be, in the wintertime, they'd be clustered around this honey, and their bees would be moving around in a cluster, just eating this honey. But if they're so cold, and they need the cluster to stay warm, it's hard for them to climb up over the frame or under the frame to get to the next frame that's in a frame of honey that's in the hive. But if you have a little hole right there, boom, all they got to do is walk through that hole, and it makes it a lot easier for them to go from one frame to the next, because basically it ends up, if you look at it like this, it ends up being a little passageway that goes right through all the honey frames.
A corridor.
Yeah, a little corridor. And so they don't have to break cluster to move from one frame of honey to the next. And it's a really simple thing to do. It's an extra task, which some people will say, the hell with that. But I think it has the potential to pay off on really cold winters when the bees aren't able to break cluster to move from one frame of honey to the next. And so that's why before I even set up all my nucs, and whenever my frames are laying around and I got nothing else to do, I just drill a hole in them. And I'll drill a hole right through the comb and the honey and everything else. I did that with this one today. This is a frame of honey and pollen, and the drill goes right through it, no big deal. And the bees will clean that up, and they won't leave it 3/4 of an inch wide. They'll fill that in to the size of bee space, so that they can easily just, one bee at a time can get through it, like they do with everything. And there you go. That's the logic behind all these holes in my frames, in my foundation.